All right, in this video, we're going to look at the cost of homeownership. We're going to talk about loans, down payments, just all the things that would play a part in purchasing a home. And so the first thing we're going to look at is computing the monthly payment and interest costs for a mortgage. And we see over here on the right, we have this PMT formula. This is our formula for calculating our regular monthly payment amount. And so let's look at this problem. It says the price of a home is $224,000. The bank requires a 20% down payment and 3 points at the time of closing. The cost of the home is financed with a 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 7.5%. All right, so there's 5 things we're looking for here. First, we're asked to find the required down payment. Now, to find the required down payment, the bank requires 20% of the total cost. So in order to find that, we just have to find out what 20%, so that's 0.20 of, which means multiplication, so 20%, 0.2 times the total price of the house, which is $224,000. And so if we multiply these two together, all right, so multiplying these two values together gives me a down payment of $44,800. All right, so this is how much we're required to pay down payment. This will not be calculated into our mortgage amount. So in order to find the amount of mortgage, which is part B, we have to take the price of the house, which is $224,000, and we have to subtract the down payment from that. All right, and that's going to give me a total of $179,200, and this is the amount that we will have to figure out or get financed, get a mortgage for. Now, part C is asking us for how much must be paid for the 3 points at closing. Now, a point is a one-time charge that equals 1% of the loan amount. So for this mortgage, there's a charge of 3 points, which can also be expressed as 3% of the mortgage amount. So that's what we're going to have to find. All right, so we'll do $179,000, 200, times that 3%, which is 0.03, and that's going to give us $5,376. So that's how much must be paid for the 3 points at closing. All right, D now wants us to find this regular payment amount, this monthly payment amount. So we're going to use this formula over here on the right, this PMT formula, and we're just going to plug in for all the values. So it tells me that P is the amount that our mortgage is for. So PMT equals my loan amount, which is the $179,200. Remember, that's the amount that we have to get the mortgage for, times the R, which is fixed rate at 7.5%, so that's 0.075, and then divided by, this is a monthly payment, so my N is 12, and then all that's divided 1 minus 1 plus 0.075 divided by 12, and then that's raised to the negative n times t. Well, if n is 12 and t, it says, is 30 years, so my t is 30, my n is 12, and so I'm just going to go ahead and multiply those together, and I get negative 360. All right, so all I've done so far is just plugged it directly in. Now we're going to calculate this up to find our PMT amount. All right, so calculating the top gives me a total of 1,120, and now let's find the bottom. All right, that's going to give me 0.893860, and I'm going to stop there. I did a little rounding, but I think we'll be okay. And so now if we divide those two numbers, for our monthly payment amount, we get $1,252, and since we're talking about money, we want to round to the nearest cent, which is 99 cents. Okay, and so that is our regular monthly payment for our house mortgage. Now part E says, the last part of this question says, okay, Find the total cost of the interest over 30 years. Well, if we're going to pay this $1,252.99 for each month for 30 years, well, we've already said that that's going to be 360 payments. So if we multiply that number by 360, that's going to tell me how many payments I'm going to have to make. And so when we multiply those two, we get $451,076.40. That is how much money total we will pay over the course of this 30-year mortgage. Now, to find so that's the total cost of the amount borrowed and the interest. Part E just wants us to find the total cost of the interest. So interest is going to be equal to subtracting the amount that we're going to pay, so $451,076.40, minus the amount that we had the mortgage for, which is $179,200. And subtracting those, we get $271,876.40. That's the amount paid for the total interest only, for this house mortgage. So you see that you only borrowed $179,200. You wound up paying $271,876.40 just for interest alone. Unfortunately, a lot of us, we have to do that because we don't just have $180,000 sitting around that we can pay cash for a house. So in order to pay it in smaller amounts over the 30 years, we are having to pay back quite a bit more of money. Alright, so in this problem it says the price of a small cabin is $45,000. The bank requires a 5% down payment. The buyer is offered two mortgage options: 20 years fixed at 8.5% or 30 years fixed at 8.5%. Calculate the amount of interest paid for each option. How much does the buyer save in interest with a 20-year option? Alright, so the first thing we got to do is we just got to figure out our amount of down payment. Okay, so the down payment again is just $45,000 times that 5%, which is 0.5. So just doing those, multiplying those two numbers together, we get $2,250. Okay, so how much are we going to have to mortgage? So if we do $45,000 minus the amount of down payment, that gives us $42,750. That's the amount that we have to mortgage. Okay, so that's the amount that we're going to have to get a loan for. So now what we want to do is we just got to find the monthly payments for each one, use that to find how much total we're going to pay, and then we can find the interest for each one and see how much we save. Alright, so now we're just going to calculate the monthly payments for each one. So the 20-year fixed at 8.5% first. Okay, so my PMT is my mortgage amount, which is $42,750, times my rate, which in this case is 0.085, divided by 12, and all that is being divided 1 minus 1 plus my 0.085 again, divided by 12, and then we raise that to the negative end, which is 12 times t, which in this case t is 20. Alright, and so now I'm just going to calculate all this together. You can pause the video if you like to and just work on calculating this up. I'm going to calculate it up all together, one whole, just to go ahead and get that regular payment amount. Alright, so when I calculate all this together, I get a regular payment amount of $370.99. Okay? That's for the 20-year option. Okay, so now I want to do it for the 30-year option. So let me find, so that's for the 20-year. Okay, so now for the 30-year, Again, everything stays the same except for my T. My T is the only thing that changes. So that's 42,750 times 0.085 divided by 12 all over 1 minus 1 plus 0.085 divided by 12, and then raised to the negative 12. And now my T is 30 for the 30 year. Okay? And so again, now I'm just going to calculate all this up to get my regular payment amount for the 30 year mortgage. Alright, so when I do this calculation, I get a regular payment amount of $328.71. Alright, so we see that the regular payment amount for the 30-year monthly is a little bit cheaper. Okay, but now what we want to see is how much does the buyer save in interest with a 20-year option. So now we need to see how much we're paying in interest for each one. Alright, so now in order to determine the amount of interest we save overall, we have to calculate how much we're going to pay for each one. So for the 20-year, we're paying $370.99 per month. Remember, if we go back to the problem, remember it's for 20 years monthly. Okay, 20 years monthly. So that means 12 payments for 20 years. That means we're going to pay a total of 12 times 20 is 240. So we're going to pay a total of 240 payments. So if we do this 370.99 cents times 240 payments, okay, that's going to give me a total of $89,037.60. Okay, so that's how much total we're paying for the 20-year mortgage. All right, well now, if we look at it for the 30-year mortgage, we're going to pay $328.71. Remember, this was for monthly for 30 years, so times 360 payments, and that gives me a total of $118,335.60. Okay, and that's how much we would pay overall for the 30 year. Okay, and so now we've got to see which one or how much interest do we save going the 20-year route. Alright, so now we have how much money for each one we're paying back. Remember, we borrowed, okay, our mortgage. So if we go back, we saw that we had to get a mortgage for the $42,750. So now if we take that and subtract it from each total, so 89037 minus 37.60 minus the amount that we borrowed, which was the $42,750. Alright, this will give me how much I had to pay in interest. Alright, so I had to pay $46,287.60 interest on the 20-year loan. Alright, now we're going to do the same thing for the 30 year. So we have the $118,335.60 minus $42,750, and this gives me a total of $75,585.60. So that's how much interest alone I paid on the 30-year mortgage. So now the question was, how much did we save? So now we just subtract these two numbers, so $75,585.60, and we're going to subtract the $46,287.60, and so what we get is interest saved was $29,298. So even though with the 30 year your monthly payments are smaller, over the course of that time you're going to have to pay almost an additional $30,000 just for those extra 10 years of being able to make your payment.